Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger. Announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. We are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am not asking your newspapers to support an administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. For I have complete confidence in the response and dedication of our citizens whenever they are fully informed. I not only could not stifle controversy among your readers, I welcome it. This administration intends to be candid about its errors. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it. We intend to accept full responsibility for our errors, and we expect you to point them out when we miss them. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. And that is why our press was protected by the First Amendment, the only business in America specifically protected by the Constitution, not primarily to amuse and entertain, not to emphasize the trivial and the sentimental, not to simply give the public what it wants, but to inform, to arouse, to reflect, to state our dangers and our opportunities, to indicate our crises and our choices, to lead, mold, educate, and sometimes even anger public opinion. This means greater coverage and analysis of international news, for it is no longer far away and foreign, but close at hand and local. It means greater attention to improved understanding of the news, as well as improved transmission. And it means, finally, that government at all levels must meet its obligation to provide you with the fullest possible information outside the narrowest limits of national security. And so it is to the printing press, to the recorder of man's deeds, the keeper of his conscience, the courier of his news, that we look for strength and assistance, confident that with your help, man will be what he was born to be, free and independent.
But now we have a direct testimony from someone who actually was serving during the Kennedy administration. I mean, during the time of Kennedy's administration, Corso was working at the Foreign Technology Desk for the Army's Research and Development Division. So, he was actually a lieutenant colonel running a particular branch of a very secretive desk at the Department of Defense, and he was working directly with his mentor, a Lieutenant General Trudeau. And so Corso, in that testimony, that video testimony that I believe was made in 1998, shortly before he died, he basically said that what happened was that he was able to speak with the Attorney General, Robert Kennedy, back in 1962, and there was more than one meeting, that there were several meetings with the President's brother, and that he told Robert Kennedy about UFOs, about the technology, and that some of this technology was really critical for taking America into this new age of high-tech society. And the interesting thing is that this is exactly the job that Corso was assigned to do in the Department of Defense by his superior, Lieutenant General Trudeau.
Corso claims he spoke with Robert Kennedy face to face.
He knew about the flying saucers. I talked to him about it. I used to meet him when he was Attorney General right in his office. What went to Bobby went to the President also. Since I take all the risks, I will testify under one condition, that you put this testimony in the hands of the Kennedy brothers. Senator Eastland assured me he'd do it personally, and he did. And that's why the Attorney General called me. He wanted to discuss my testimony first. And
nothing that Robert Kennedy found out about UFOs was kept from the President. I mean, that was something Corso himself pointed out in the interview. So that is a really direct testimony that the President knew about UFOs and extraterrestrial life. I mean, there have been a few people that have come forward that said that the President spoke about UFOs. One was William Holden, a Project Camelot witness who was a steward on Air Force One. And he said that President Kennedy, on a flight to Germany, commented about a newspaper story of UFOs, saying that, in fact, yes, he believed that there were extraterrestrials out there.
I was stationed in Wiesbaden Air Force Base in Germany, and this was June of 1963, and President Kennedy was on his way to do the Ich bin ein Berliner speech in Berlin. And I had the pleasure of being one of the stewards on board and greeted him that morning. And President Kennedy was one of these gentlemen that he knew everyone. And so when he came on board, he knew who I was, and he says, "Good morning, Airman Holden." I says, "Good morning, Mr. President." And that morning I had picked up a couple of newspapers from the local newspapers, English edition, and there had been 2 UFOs spotted over the Autobahn, and clear pictures right on the front page. And so I had them sitting on the table, and I had asked him if he would like some juice and coffee. And he said, juice would be fine, thank you. And by that time he looked down at the paper and saw what was there. And he looked up at me and says, "Well, what do you think?" And then I says, "Well, what do you think, sir?" And he looked back at me, and with that, just that phenomenal smile of his, he says, "I asked you first." So I laughed about that, and I said, "Well, sir, I'm an old Southern boy from down in Georgia, and my grandfather was a Methodist preacher down there, and for us to believe that we're the only intelligent beings in the world is unbelievable. So yes, I believe that there is such thing as other human species as well as UFOs.
And what did he say?
He says, "You're right, young man." And I just wish I knew then what I know now, to have been able to go ahead and ask the President some of the questions that I have today.